That damn pig monster won't leave me alone. I know you'll find this hard to believe, but I'm not here to be believed. I am here to get this out there so at least someone will know what's been going on. I've tried to tell my ex-wife, but she wouldn't listen. I only know that nobody can see this damn thing but me. It's looking right at me now, snorting diversely, as if to say, nobody will believe you, John. They'll just laugh you off the web. It doesn't really talk. It just looks at me. It all started a few days ago. The same day my power went out while I was trying to make toast. I went outside to check my fuse box, and I heard something rustling around in my perfectly manicured shrub wall. I turned and found a divot in the shrub, like something huge had fallen from the sky and split the thing down the middle. There at the base of the bush, rooting in the dirt, was a big black pig thing. It had huge tusks and a gleaming black snout. It looked at me with its watery red eyes and snorted loudly. Now, you have to understand, a lot has gone wrong in my life recently. My divorce was finalized a month ago. My boss said my job performance has been affected by my personal drama. Imagine that. And cut my hours in half. The bills are piling up. The car won't start on cold mornings. And I'm stressed out beyond belief. I was as on edge as a man can be without taking an AR-15 to the shopping mall. So, when I saw that ugly pig thing glaring at me and fucking up my shrubs, I snapped a little. I attacked it. Or should I say, I tried to attack it. The thing darted around the side of my house, and I chased it into the backyard, shouting obscenities all the way. I saw it on top of my carefully arranged pile of firewood, and I gasped in horror as it nudged one log off the top, then another, then one more that sent a cascade of logs clattering onto my porch. The pig snorted twice, then leaped, yes, leaped, onto my roof and charged across the house. I ran inside, grabbed my cell phone, and shouted animal control into the voice search app. By the time that I had this incompetent clerk at the sheriff's office on the phone, there was no sign of the pig. Just ruined shrubbery, and a wood pile askew, and my hands shaking in rage. She said there were no pigs in the area, and it must have been an escaped pet or something. I had my suspicions that pig was a monster, but I'm not the type to leap to a supernatural conclusion. That was one of the things my wife hated about me. My refusal to see the world beyond our own. She wanted me to respect her beliefs, but I was content to mock her delusions right up until she packed her bags, grabbed her daughter, and left me hanging with a too-big house and massive mortgage. She lives with her mom and stepdad now, way out in the boonies in a place where I might not be so surprised to see an errant pig or two. So, after the idiot at the sheriff's office refused to do anything, I called the power company to see why the hell my house was the only one on the street without electricity. The bitch on the phone politely informed me that my $100 payment hadn't covered my past due balance, and they'd cut me off as retaliation for my delinquency. I screamed at her for a while about bills and financial management, but she wouldn't put me through to anybody worth a damn, and I had to pull an extra $400 out of my ass to get my power back on the next day. I drove to work late, hurried by my encounter with the pig and my super zen phone calls with idiots across country. Because of my douche boss's reduction of my hours, I now had to deal with a 9 a.m. rush instead of cruising mostly empty streets and arriving happily at 7. I got stuck in hell of a traffic jam around 5th and Campbell that morning. I remember because after being at a dead stop for nearly 10 minutes, I heard the guttural call of a hungry pig monster. I looked in my back seat and almost had a heart attack when I saw the thing had gotten its dripping jaws on my laptop and was furiously munching away through the keyboard. I screamed, put the car in park, and dove into the back seat to wrestle my precious computer away from the pig. I just managed to pin the beast and punch it in the head when the driver behind me leaned on his horn. He stuck his head out the window and shouted, "Get a move on, asshole!" While I was distracted, the pig wriggled out from under me and jumped on my driver's side window. Infuriated, I exploded out of my car and lurched towards the car behind me. "Look what you just cost me, you fuck!" I shouted, brandishing the now separated screen and keyboard from my former laptop at him. The coward took one look at me, rolled his window up, and locked his doors. I stomped back to my car and drove it another 2 blocks at a snail's pace before coming to a standstill yet again. At this point, the gravity of my loss began to sink in. That laptop was top of the line and was priced accordingly. It had all of my documents, photos, and everything on it. I slumped over my wheel and let out 2 helpless sobs, which I should point out is a very uncharacteristic and not something I would do in just any upsetting situation. That damn pig! I loved that laptop! I arrived at 9:45, and the doorman informed me that there had been a nasty accident on the freeway, which had diverted traffic back into the city and nearly gridlocked the whole district. Fucking figures, I huffed, as if my day hadn't been shitty enough. My day passed in a blur, and I was off at 3, despite my loud protestations that I wasn't finished with my project for the day. My boss, Cheryl, literally took my arm and walked me to the front door. "John," she said in the humor me tone, "I'm really worried about you." "Here's the thing, Cheryl," I said. "If you don't want to worry about me, maybe you ought to give me back my hours so I can pay my bills and have some hope of convincing my ex-wife that I'm a worthy provider." As I spoke, I heard the snorting start up again in the atrium that flanks the lobby of the building where I work. Cheryl replied in a curt tone, but I ignored her. I was busy scanning the atrium for any signs of a greasy black pig hide. I had an enemy to kill, and my primal man instincts kept me from giving a single shit about whatever my boss was prattling on about. I finally saw the thing rooting at the base of a blooming tree, and without a word to Cheryl, I bolted for it. I must have been in a real hurry because I somehow forgot that the atrium was divided from the lobby by a large plate glass window. I conked myself on one of them and woke up at 5:30 in the hospital room, and you'll never guess what was on top of me, snorting and slobbering. That fucking pig thing. I screamed bloody murder and socked the thing in the snout, but it just shook its nasty head and jammed its glistening nose against my cheek. It snorted, and little bits of snot and spittle splattered my freshly bandaged head. I spat at it and yelled for a nurse. A nurse arrived looking surprised and asked me what was wrong. "The fuck do you think?" I said, gesturing at the fat pig standing on my chest. "Get the fucker off of me." The nurse just stared at me. "I'm going to get a doctor," she said shakily. Obviously, she was too scared of the pig to do anything about it, so she just left me to suffer under it. I took another swing at its head, but it ducked and slammed its face right into my skull. I blacked out again and woke up in the psych ward the following morning. I wasn't thrilled about having to lie my way out of a diagnosis of delusions and whatnot, but I was happy that that pig hadn't found its way into the psych ward. I claimed that my head injury had caused me to imagine a giant pig and conveniently left out that the pig had been stalking me since the morning before. I clocked myself on the atrium window. I made it out of the psych ward that afternoon with a ringing headache and a nice prescription for anti-anxiety pills. I filled my prescription immediately and drove home. On the way, I turned on my phone. and saw that I had no less than 5 voice messages from my ex-wife and 13 texts. I was supposed to pick up Lucy from school the day before, but due to minor concussion and a major fucking pig problem, I hadn't been able to make it. I called and tried to explain, but she hung up on me before I even finished telling her about how it had destroyed my laptop and nearly cost me my 5-star mental health rating. She was always kind of a bitch, now that I think about it. I arrived home to find my front door standing wide open and half of my clothes strewn across the front lawn. Swaddled contently in a pile of my best underwear was that damn pig monster. It was chomping away on fine silk, snorting happily, and when it laid its shining, evil eyes on me, it snorted in a way that sounded just like a laugh. Laughing at me? I shrieked in a high pitch that I didn't even know I could hit. "I'll kill you." I dove at it and tore through my clothes to find the monster, but the harder I tried to find it, the louder it snorted and the further away it seemed to get. I ran up my front steps into my house, and without hesitation, I ran after it. I paused in my foyer for just a moment before I heard a loud crash in the kitchen. I slammed through the door to find my refrigerator upended and hundreds of dollars of food splattered on the floor. The pig monster was in the cabinet under the sink, which I could tell from the bottles of cleaner that were flying out of said cabinet. The pig was clearly rooting them up and using its tusks to lob them at me. Fucker. I backed out of the kitchen and began to reassess my life. I came to the conclusion that either I was losing my mind or there was some kind of crazy pig monster out there to get me that nobody else could see. I considered the first opinion briefly, counting my fingers touched my nose, and decided that I was still sane. My release form from the hospital said as much. Clearly, the pig monster was real, and it had to be dealt with. I darted into my room and threw open the sliding door to my walk-in closet. The gun safe was standing open because I'd forgotten the combination 4 years ago, but the 9mm was in a little portable lockbox on the top shelf. The rest was empty. It was where my wife used to keep her expensive jewelry. I pried open the lockbox and let it drop as soon as my palm touched the metal. I did a quick check of the weapon. It was clean, and the magazine was fully loaded. I clicked it into place, racked one into the chamber, and power walked back into the kitchen. All of the contents of the lower cabinets and refrigerator were strewn about the room, and the pig was now standing on its hind legs on the top of the stove and chewing on the upper cabinet. When it saw me with my gun, the slick little bastard squealed and jumped onto the floor. The beast landed in some mustard, skidded hard to the left, and took out the kitchen table. After the cacophony had stopped echoing in my brain, I aimed at the rubble that used to be an expandable IKEA special and fired 5 rounds into it. Silence. I cackled and strutted towards the pile, gun drawn, my ears ringing with success and tenderness. As I approached, the pile shifted slightly, and I heard a pained grunt. The creature lived. I kicked aside the board, revealing the thing's head, then put 2 more rounds between its sickly little eyes. Now this is where it gets weird. The fucking thing evaporated. I'm not even exaggerating. It turned to vapor and rose up into a faint cloud of stink and mist. From behind me came a loud, distortive snort. I whirled around and fired at it, only to find my gun empty. It snorted in that laughing way and began to root through a pile of cheesecake. I sat down on my dead table, thought about my options, and decided to take a handful of anxiety pills and a long nap. When I woke up, the pig monster was in my closet, chewing on my nicest shoes. I grabbed a shattered piece of wood, formerly a part of the closet door, which the monster had evidently destroyed during my nap, and slam-stabbed the pig in the back of the neck. It evaporated. Again. Fuck. I'm in what's left of my office now, listening to the big chew on a dictionary and hoping to God one of you know how to fix whatever this bad juju is behind this. For now, my plan is to just keep killing it until it stops being alive, but that's a lot more exhausting than it sounds. So, does anybody have any suggestions for how to kill a kill-proof pig monster?